Hello YouTube, it's Sign here with Hobbies and Man once again, and today we're going to be doing our Obi-Wan Kenobi series review. I'm going to talk about the whole TV show. I'm going to give you my thoughts on kind of each episode, kind of the thoughts of the overall story, kind of what my issues and my positives were for the series, and then I'm going to kind of vaguely tell you how I would have done the show instead. Now keep in mind that I'm not a, professional at anything that I do on YouTube, right? And I actually don't know too much about television, but I've read and consumed and enjoyed enough stories to know what would have worked for me and what, kind of things are failing here. And so that's mostly the angle that I'm going from, It's not really a literally like, hey, this is how you should write this kind of point of view. More of this is how it didn't work for me and this is how I would have done it instead, based on how I view Star Wars, right? So, if you like the show, that's great. I like the show too. I just didn't love the show, and I was actually generally quite disappointed with the show because I think that there's a lot about this show that really was pointing toward it being perfect and awesome and amazing, and it just didn't deliver. So we're going to talk about that. And yeah, so I watched the show as it was coming out, week by week, by myself and also with my parents. So I watched the whole thing, every week that it was coming out. Each episode I watched it by myself. And then I watched the first 3 episodes with my parents, as they were coming out. And then I left and I came back and I watched the last 3 episodes with them in a binge. And then I just finished watching the series again. And well, maybe watching it isn't really the right word because I sat down with the intent to watch it. And then I realized that I was pretty bored with the story, whether that was because I had just finished experiencing it last week, or it was because I didn't like it. I'm not too sure. I don't really care too much about that person, like that specific reasoning. But I did just kind of skip through the episodes, watch the scenes that I really cared about, and kind of analyze the scenes that I didn't like, and try to fill out this piece of paper that has all of my notes for the story. And well, yeah, so let's start with just the general thoughts about the show. I'm pretty disappointed by the show, actually. I think that it should have been the one thing that Disney Star Wars nailed, and I think that it didn't really succeed in doing so at all. Were there really good moments? Yes, there were some really good moments. Were there really bad moments? Yes, there was a lot of really bad moments. I think that if the show is, 100%, the percentage of good things was about 40, maybe 35, and the percentage of bad things was about 60 to 65%. Like, I just generally found a lot more problems with the show than I found good things with the show, and that's actually quite bad. However, since it's Star Wars and I have such goodwill for Star Wars, I don't really have too many issues with it. However, I think that there's, some reasons why I'm also harsher on the show than I was with something like Book of Boba Fett. Now, the Book of Boba Fett was disappointing too, but it wasn't really that disappointing because I don't really have that big of a connection with the Boba Fett character. I was a prequels child. I grew up with the prequels. I knew Boba Fett as a young whiny kid, so it didn't really matter that Boba Fett as an old guy wasn't like uber badass like, everyone seems to think he should have been, even though, like he dies like an idiot in the movie, right? So I don't know. I didn't really have that much of an issue because I didn't have a personal connection with the Boba Fett as a character, but I do have quite a big connection with Obi-Wan Kenobi as a character, and so I feel like there's a lot more difficulty with me accepting a lot of things, and that probably led to why I don't like this show that much. Now, I wouldn't really say that I had expectations about the show going in, but, the way that it was marketed really felt like it was going to be awesome. It was going to be amazing. And it was going to have amazing, beautiful John Williams music. I mean, the teaser trailer that made everyone happy in March had the 3 best prequel soundtracks, right? Like it had Duel of the Fates, it had Battle of Heroes, and I think it had the Imperial March as well. So I guess the Imperial March technically is not one of the prequel story, songs, but it is, a very noticeable Star Wars song, right? So, I don't know. I thought that was going to be it, and that was probably one of the big disappointments of the show, that the music wasn't there. Like, I can't really remember any of the music from the show besides the Obi-Wan theme. I think the Arrival on Mapuzo was probably the other song that I remember, but I don't really know too much about it. I don't really remember it too much. Of course, this is also because I haven't watched this 1,000 times like I've watched the prequels, so it's not really exactly fair, but there's a certain element of like wow to the music that John Williams did for Star Wars, and even the music that I think his name is Kevin Costner did for the animated shows, and I didn't really feel that here. I think even Ludwig Garrison has done a really good job with the sound for the Mandalorian stuff. And I actually distinctly remember a lot of Mandalorian music. So I am pretty disappointed that this prequel era show was one that I didn't really connect with musically, right? But again, I'm not a music person, so I don't really know too much about how it happens. And so I really don't really care about telling you what I think is good or bad about it. I just think that there's a lot of good music that could have been used, that could have been incorporated into the show, and I'm quite sad that it wasn't. Like I said, I'm generally disappointed with the show. I think that it wasn't balanced well. I think that the Reva character was immensely unnecessary. There's nothing about the character that was meaningful to the story at all. A lot of people say that Star Wars is a mythology and not everything needs to make sense, and that a lot of characters are supposed to be like mirrors of each other in order to show some point of view. And I generally agree with these things. However, Star Wars, all of the Star Wars plot points that don't make sense from the George Lucas time period are because George Lucas had to write them in a different order from how they were supposed to really be written. And so those inconsistencies occur and are perfectly allowed because they're done by the person that made them. Not they are done by the person that created the thing, right? Disney did not create Star Wars. They have to make sure that they are consistent because it is not their property. Like, I guess it is their property legally, but intellectually it's not, and they should respect the source material, and they should make sure that they don't have all of these inconsistencies. And it really bothers me. But again, it's Star Wars. It's just an entertainment thing. I don't care too much. I do care a lot, but I don't allow myself to really get bogged down in it, because at the end of the day, it's just going to make me frustrated and angry, and it's going to be not useful to me as an individual. So, I let a lot of that go by the wayside, even though, I really dislike it in the moment when I'm thinking about it. I usually don't care about it too much outside of when I'm watching Star Wars, right? So, I don't know, but yeah. Reva is a bad character. I think they underutilized the actress a lot. I think she could have done a lot better in a different role. I think that the character was badly written, and there was nothing about them that was meaningful, because I don't understand who it was that she was supposed to be mirroring. I'm guessing for, a lot of the final scenes of the show, she was supposed to be mirroring Anakin, right? Or also kind of like Luke before he, tries to kill Kylo Ren. A lot of those scenes basically looked exactly the same as the flashback scenes when they explained why Kylo Ren became bad. But it doesn't make sense that she's mirroring Anakin, because she's not like Anakin. She is not like Anakin at all, right? Like, Anakin grew up in a horrible environment and then moved to the perfect, very not harsh environment of the Jedi temple when he was 10 years old. And this is why he had anger, right? Reva grew up in this environment and then got anger through Anakin killing all of her friends, right? But this anger doesn't seem to have meant much to her, because she never got her Sith yellow eyes. And it also doesn't make sense because a lot of the scenes about her are very ambiguous, and she's also very inconsistent as a character. And this is probably the worst part. It doesn't make sense why one moment she's cutting off people's hands, and the next she's letting Haja live, and then the next she's trying to torture Leia with no hesitation, and then at the end of the show, she happens to allow Luke to live, and she suddenly realizes, 10 years after killing Jedi like crazy, that, oh my god, I just turned like Darth Vader. Like, that doesn't make sense. She wasn't really blinded by her rage at all because she didn't seem to have any rage. She was not messed up by the dark side like all of the other Inquisitors. So it doesn't make sense. You would assume that the Inquisitors would be like, she doesn't seem evil like the rest of us. What's going on here, right? Like, you would think that they would know and notice that, she doesn't have Sith yellow eyes. She doesn't have any debilitating situations occurring through the dark side usage. There's nothing about her that really screams like evil, but there's also nothing about her that screams good, right? And her righteous revenge doesn't make sense at all. It also doesn't make sense how she decided that going after Luke was a good idea, or why she even survived the stab, because, and here's a very important thing, all of the bad guys that have survived stab wounds, or getting cut in half, or anything bad, happen to survive it when they had yellow Darksider eyes, and Reva never had these. So how did she survive getting stabbed as a kid? Did she even actually get stabbed as a kid? It's very unclear. I didn't understand what that is, and maybe you can say, like, maybe you're just a bad watcher. I don't think so. I think that the scene was very ambiguous on purpose, and it doesn't actually help because the little girl, I very much doubt that a little 10-year-old girl that has never known hate in her life can truly muster enough hate to tap into the dark side enough to survive long enough to be, brought into the Inquisitor's headquarters, right? And once she's an adult, there is no way that she can survive a stab wound in the same place without actually going to the dark side, which we never actually saw. Now, we saw the Inquisitor change eye colors. We saw Anakin change eye colors throughout the show. It doesn't make sense that this character that is supposed to be having, wonders done to the will to live by revenge, like the Grand Inquisitor said, not have these yellow Sith eyes and not actually fall to the dark side like she is supposed to be reflecting, right? So it doesn't really make sense. Like, that character feels wasted. It doesn't feel like she was meaningful at all to this story specifically. Now, outside of this story, maybe this character could have been really good if we had a show called Star Wars Inquisitors where we see Reva's story from youngling getting stabbed in the gut to what we see her trying to confront Darth Vader and ultimately failing at it. I think it would have worked really well. However, it doesn't work when you're trying to tell us all of this story about her at the same time as you're supposed to be exploring Anakin and Obi-Wan, right? And mostly Obi-Wan, because it is the Obi-Wan Kenobi show, not the Reva show, not the Leia show, not the Anakin show. It is the Obi-Wan Kenobi show, and he felt like an accessory to most of his show. Not as bad as Boba Fett did in the Book of Boba Fett, but he still doesn't really feel like the main character. The main driving plot person is Leia. The secondary driving plot person is Reva. Anakin and Obi-Wan are very much like tertiary characters in terms of like how the story moves. And I find that to be very, very disappointing. Most of my notes have at least one moment in each episode where I'm saying Reva is a bad character. And that is very disappointing. Like, I don't really mind when they add new characters, right? Savage Opress, Moff Gideon, The Mandalorian, Din Djarin, Baby Grogu, or Baby Yoda / Grogu, Poe Dameron, Kylo Ren. All of these characters that have been introduced by Disney are interesting and meaningful when they are explored in the right context. But Reva was not explored in the right context, and so she happens to be a shitty character because she is just annoying to see in the show because she's taking away valuable time from Obi-Wan and Darth Vader. And we can clearly see this in the last episode when we cut away from the important part of the show, the fight between Anakin and Kenobi, to Reva stalking Luke Skywalker. Why? We know he's not gonna die. What the hell is the point of those scenes? Like, was it cool to see Beru being a badass? Yes, it was cool. It was also not meaningful at all. Like, it makes no sense within the context of Star Wars. And maybe not making sense doesn't make sense because I think technically in the comic book she is a freedom fighter. However, it doesn't make sense in the context of the movies, and it actually doesn't add anything in the context of the movies. those scenes were there just to have a mirror conflict to something else, but it doesn't work because Reva is a bad character. She does not have the meaningful time dedicated to her to make her relevant to anyone. And so I don't like her at all. I feel very sad for the actress because she's going to have to carry this, negative feeling that a lot of people have for her due to this really shitty character that she had to play. And, we know that that's really crap because she was already getting racist comments thrown at her from like the very beginning of the show. And I'm really not looking forward to seeing all of the vitriol that gets sent her way over this stupid TV show that was so badly handled. So I don't know. It really sucks. I hope that we get some prequels for Reva, something better for Reva. But honestly, I would rather just never see the character again because I don't like the character at all. I think that it was really, really bad. Darth Vader is generally the only thing that Disney Star Wars gets right, and I think that generally in this show they managed to do that pretty well, except for 2 times. Basically, twice, Darth Vader lets Reva live, and it makes no sense because he literally kills people just for talking to him funny. Like, it makes no sense for him to let her live because she has no protections. There's nothing about her that is meaningful to anyone, right? So, like, the Palpatine's not going to give a shit if Darth Vader kills Reva. So there's no point in him stopping himself from doing so. When she puts the tracker on it, he could have snapped her neck and just gotten the tracker information by himself, right? And when he fights her, there's no point in letting her live because if she already survived the stab wound once, why won't she survive another one, right? Like, it's just stupid. Why would they leave this character open-ended like that? It makes no sense to me. It's really stupid. It doesn't really work for me at all. I think those are the 2 times that Disney has messed up Darth Vader, and mostly it's because even in the show, he was the most badass, dastardly villain ever. He was the darkest motherfucker in the world, in the galaxy. And he doesn't kill Reva. Why did he not kill Reva both of the times that he had the ability to do so, that he had the opportunity to do so? It makes no sense to Darth Vader. Like, this man kills everyone and anything in his path, and we saw this in the show. It makes no sense for him to suddenly have mercy or toy with this character just for the sake of the show. I don't like that at all. But overall, I think that generally, Darth Vader was probably a highlight of the show. So that's good. I think that there was a lot of missed opportunities with a lot of the side characters. I said I don't like Reva because there's nothing about her that's interesting and because she took time away from Obi-Wan and Darth Vader. However, there are some side characters in this story that I think would have worked a lot better if they didn't die or get killed off, or if they were given a few more minutes or a little bit more time to breathe. And these characters are Tala and Ned B. They did not need to die. They were actually the most important, meaningful side characters, in my opinion. Like, they are actually what Reva is kind of supposed to be, right? Like, these people that are in the bad side and they realize that they're in the bad side and they try to change and atone. And it doesn't, like, that's a really good story point. That's actually supposed to be like Reva's story point at the end of the show. And Tala already had it made for her. It made a lot more sense. The actress was good, more or less the same, ability as Moses Ingram, but the character was way better written, probably because it was a way shorter, time period spent with the character. But that character could have been really, really great, and we could have seen her before in, a spin-off show called The Journey of the Path or some shit, and we could have seen her afterwards, and she could have been a point of contact for Obi-Wan throughout the next 10 years, that we could have seen her, have shows and have Obi-Wan pop up in, and it would have been really great. I think that Tala was a really great character. We could have used her as a person to help train Leia and have her be Leia's mentor, have her be, this master for Leia, and it would have been really great. And I think that they really misused Tala a lot because she was probably the best secondary character there was. I also think that Haja was severely underutilized technically speaking, I really think he should have died in the second episode when he was introduced, when Reva let him live, which again is a Reva inconsistency that really, really bothers me. I didn't really enjoy that because she flip-flops all the time and it's just really annoying and inconsistent. And it doesn't really jive with all the other Inquisitors. And I understand that that's the point, but it doesn't make sense. So I don't like it. But Haja is a fun character. He's very much like a Hondo type character. However, I feel like he was really underutilized. He could have done better. And I think that a lot of his jokes also didn't really work for me, but they weren't really completely bad. I think they would have worked well for teenagers and young kids. However, it doesn't really work for me. So I don't know. I think he was underutilized. He could have been a better character. He could have even been a point of contact for Obi-Wan to get to other Obi-Wan characters, right? Like he could have contacted Dex, who happens to live on Daiyu now. He could have also been a contact for Hondo, and we could have seen Hondo in live action. That would have been awesome. I don't understand why all of these legacy characters that are connected to Obi-Wan were ignored in favor of this really shitty new Reva character. So, I don't know. I'm really sad about that. I also think that Roken was a really bad character. However, he would have been a really good character if he was handled well. I think Roken would have worked well if they set up the initial Roken doesn't want to help Obi-Wan thing at the beginning of the episode, and at the end of the episode, he decided to help Obi-Wan. However, within like the way I would want to change the story, I don't think Roken would have been a character that really mattered, so I don't know. I think, honestly, Roken could have been a really great character, but everything that they did with him was such fast, really insignificant scenes, and that kind of sucks, because he could have been a really great character. We could have seen, like, an early rebellion leader that we haven't seen before, and it would have been really awesome, but what we got instead was this really flip-floppy kind of character that, you know, had like a weird saying at the end that really isn't really meaningful at all. Like Roken being like, I'm just getting started, after Obi-Wan gives him like a really bad pep talk about how, you know, there's not many leaders left. It's like, well, Obi-Wan, you could have been a leader this whole time, but you decided to hide in a hole. So I don't know. It sounds stupid. I don't know. I think Roken was underutilized and rather badly written, and I think that he had a lot of potential as a character. So I don't know. That's it. Each episode was pretty bad, honestly. The only episode that managed to get above an 8 for me was the opening episode. The first episode was really good. The second one I gave a 6 out of 10. The third one is a 7.5 out of 10. The fourth one is a 5 out of 10. That one was horrible. That was the worst one. Episode 5 is a 7.5 out of 10. And then the last episode is a 7.5 out of 10 as well, because even though there's some really great stuff, there's also some pretty bad stuff. Also, I want to talk about the lightsaber fights. Look, I don't think that there's ever going to be a time period when we can go back to the prequel style fight scenes, because unless the guy that did the fighting comes back, I think he might be dead. I'm not sure, actually. I think his name was Nick Gillard. If he ever comes back, we might get some cool, awesome choreography again, right? But unless he does, I very much thought that we're going to get the right kind of choreography for Star Wars. And a lot of it seems to be because they changed the way that the lightsabers work. I'm pretty sure they're now actual real-life props that have neopixels in them with, you know, like, what's it called? Nylon glass things. What is that called? I used to use it for my robotic stuff in high school. I can't remember what it's called, but it's like this plastic that kind of looks like glass. It's really clear. It also has a very good like strength to it, and it doesn't shatter all that much. I think it's made out of that with some neopixels stuck inside of it, and that's why they glow really nice. However, the choreography is not amazing very many times. And like I can excuse the fight scene between Obi-Wan and Darth Vader in episode 3 of the series, because that one, in the context of the story, makes sense. Obi-Wan is still not ready to deal with the fact that he has to be a Jedi again, and so he's going to be very bad at using his lightsaber. I totally understand that. However, also you can argue, you know, muscle memory doesn't really go away. If he was in a life-threatening situation, he would have definitely learned or picked up how to use his sword again, even if he was rusty. So I don't know. I still think that in the context of what the story was trying to tell us, it works. It's not that good. However, the fight with Riva generally was good, except for two things. One, Riva does this weird like feint side roll thing that's really stupid, and then Darth Vader gives her a tiny little kick. Like he kind of raises his leg like a little bit from the floor to like halfway up his knee, and somehow that like pushes Riva back. It's like, bro, he just hit your shin. That doesn't like what? You survived the stab wound. Did him hitting your shin really hurt you that much? Like it doesn't make sense. And I think it looks really bad. And I noticed it like every time I watched the show. So it wasn't me like just being like nitpicky. It's like literally ridiculously bad. It's up there with like all of the sequel fights that are really, really fucking shitty. So I don't know. But in general, the fight scene is pretty good. I also didn't really love the Obi-Wan Kenobi fight scene with Darth Vader at the end of the series. I think that there was a lot of it that was good. The background story was, or like the background of the fight scene was really bad. It was super bland. The rocks would shatter when they hit lightsabers instead of melting or like getting shorn off. Like that doesn't make sense. It's stupid. I also didn't really like the Obi-Wan is like Magneto thing where he throws all the rocks, because I am very, very sure. I don't know where I got this information. I think it was from a book, and it might be legends at this point. I'm not sure, but I am 99.999999999% sure that Obi-Wan is naturally weak with the Force, and the only reason why he can keep up with Anakin during the Clone Wars is because he has patience and he trains a buttload of time to make sure that he has that much ability with the meager Force ability that he has. Anakin, by comparison, has a shit ton of Force ability and a shit ton of practice. So Anakin is like 3, 4, 5 times as strong as Obi-Wan with the Force. It makes no sense that Obi-Wan can do the Magneto move and Anakin just kind of ignores it and just lets all the rocks hit him. So I don't know. It's not bad. It just doesn't make sense with what I understand of the characters. And that is entirely possible that I am in a flawed understanding of that character. So if that is the case, that's fine. However, the whole point of the Mustafar duel is that they're evenly matched because they know each other, not because they're actually evenly matched. Because if they were evenly matched, Obi-Wan could have been the chosen one, not Anakin, right? So it doesn't make sense for Obi-Wan to be as powerful as Anakin Skywalker ever. But this particular Magneto move really showcased that Obi-Wan was really powerful, and it doesn't really make sense to me. Also, what other problems that I have with the lightsabers? I think the lightsabers are really cool that they glow really strongly. I don't have an issue with the way they look. However, they seem to bounce off things a lot. And I really don't like how they bounce. They're not supposed to bounce. They're supposed to hit, lock in, and then keep slicing through, right? Because they're melting through the material. So I don't like how that bounces. I'm pretty sure there was a one point where Obi-Wan hits a stormtrooper, and instead of slicing the stormtrooper, it bounces off of him. And that doesn't make sense. Like it took like 3 or 4 times to like actually kill a stormtrooper. That doesn't make sense. Those armors are made of plastic, if I remember correctly. They're not even Durasteel or anything like that. So Obi-Wan should be able to, just slice through those bad boys like nothing, right? There's also one move in the flashback scene where Obi-Wan puts his sword on the floor. Like here, I'll demonstrate. Like he's holding the sword and this is the floor, right? And the sword is like stuck to the floor, but it doesn't melt through the floor. And I know this because he's holding it like this, and then Anakin smacks into his lightsaber and makes it fly away. That's how he disarms Obi-Wan in the flashback fight. How does that make sense? Does no one know how lightsabers work that worked on this show? Like, what the fuck? That's so stupid, man. I'm getting upset, but the point is that there's a lot of small inconsistencies that add up to annoyances for fans of the TV show. Or like fans of the franchise, and it's really, really annoying, and it makes no sense that these things happen because they have like the biggest fucking fanboy ever in Dave Filoni there to make sure none of this stuff happens at all, and I don't understand why it keeps happening. It also, I guess it's because they pick people that are just like not that good at their job, I guess, because the Joby Harold guy didn't seem to know that Obi-Wan already knew Anakin was Darth Vader, so I don't know, man. But yeah, overall, very disappointed with the show. How I would go about making the show is, basically I would keep the first episode. I would keep the second episode mostly intact. I think that stuff is good. You know, Obi-Wan gets the call, refuses a call, eventually does get the call and accepts it. He goes into the underworld. He finds the person he's looking for, and then he exits the underworld. And I think that these first two episodes are mostly okay. I would remove everything about Reva and, you know, just use the Inquisitors that we already know about as part of the problem. However, I would also introduce Darth Vader earlier because I think that the crux of Obi-Wan is his relationship with the Skywalkers, and he can't have a relationship with Leia or Luke when they're 10 years old. So he has to have the relationship with Anakin, right? So there you go. Keep the first two episodes mostly relatively the same. The third episode starts with getting Leia back to Alderaan, getting rid of Leia. He meets the Path. You know, Bail Organa introduces him to Roken or to Tala, and then through there they manage to work through some stuff. Obi-Wan manages to contact Qui-Gon Jinn, and then they start fighting, you know, Anakin Skywalker, and eventually the story ends with a big duel, and you know, we reset to Obi-Wan on Tatooine, and I think that really would have worked better. However, it would have still been a show that doesn't actually, you know, manage to make its existence relevant. I think that if they made a movie, removed all of the stuff of the Reva stuff from the original, from the show that we already got, condensed everything, and made the transition from Hermit Obi-Wan to Jedi Obi-Wan much clearer and easier to understand, it would have worked really well. Because even though there was 6 episodes to see this, the jumps in Obi-Wan's like psyche from like completely defeated, the battle is over, we lost, to, you know, I am a Jedi, here's my fucking Magneto attack, felt really rushed, and it didn't really feel like it managed to go anywhere well enough. Also, I really am disappointed that they crammed all of the, you know, meme slash, you know, flashback ghost things into the last 2 episodes, because, you know, the Book of Boba Fett was pretty bad, but it did teach us one thing, and that is back to tanks are really good for flashback scenes. And the fact that there was no back to flashback is pretty disappointing, because it was unnecessary in Book of Boba Fett, but it is entirely necessary in an Obi-Wan Kenobi show, because the Obi-Wan Kenobi show should have been a character-driven story, a story that dealt with Obi-Wan trying to get his mojo back emotionally, spiritually, not necessarily physically like this show did. So I don't know. That's just me. Maybe I'm crazy. Maybe I'm not crazy. I don't know. What did you guys think about the show? Let me know down in the comments. And thank you guys very much for watching. I'm sorry if I got a little bit upset at the show. I am generally pretty disappointed with the show, and I'm unhappy with the results, because I think that Disney is squandering all of the goodwill that I have for Star Wars, and that a lot of people have for Star Wars. And it doesn't make sense, because they could easily make awesome things like they do for Marvel, right? So, I don't know. That's just me. I hope you guys enjoyed the video, and see you guys later.